Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you all today. Joined now by my great friend, Matt Hladek from thespun.com. He and I have been doing a weekly segment, either on the radio or a podcast, television, whatever, for probably this is, I think, our 16th year, whatever year, the year before Rutgers joined the Big Ten after the season that year, then he began, and we've been friends ever since. Great to have you, Matt. I tell you, the Spun has got to be going crazy with all the Taylor Swift talk. I want to very be centric on Raiders, but I have to very quickly say this to you. As you know, I've been to a lot of Super Bowls, and I have never seen one like it was last night. I mean, massive. The biggest crowd I've ever seen at Media Day around Travis Kelce. I've never seen anything like it. Even when Tom Brady was in the Super Bowls and nothing. And then so almost all the questions were about Taylor Swift. It was just amazing to me, the impact. It's floored me, it stunned me. But like it or not, she has impacted, and I think impacted in a positive way by bringing in new fans, the National Football League. Your thoughts?
I would agree. I mean, you look at what the reported added value has been for Taylor Swift. I think the study said it's 331 million or something like that. And I think that, like we've talked about before, there are some people who don't like the fact they show on broadcast, or maybe be getting fatigued with the storyline. But to me, I think that overall, she's been a boon for the league, and I think that it's great to see, um, additional kind of people become involved in the NFL from a fan perspective. I think the league is getting exposure and gaining fans in markets that they may not necessarily have had huge fans in the past. They're making inroads with those groups because of Taylor Swift. And listen, even if Taylor Swift isn't around the NFL in a couple of years because either she breaks up with Travis Kelce, or even if they stay together, he retires or whatever, those people may stick around and say, hey, watching football and watching some of that was fun. Let me check out a game or become a fan of the team or stay being a fan of the Chiefs or something like that. And I think that's great for the league.
Yeah, I got to tell you though, I learned something this morning that I thought was fascinating. I got a I don't remember if it was an email or a follow. I was going through all my email and all my social media, so I apologize. I think it was an email and a follow from somebody who is a not an NFL fan, but can't stand Taylor Swift. And so they found out that the Raiders were their biggest rival. And so now is a Raider fan. I thought that was kind of cool.
Guys, hey, you take them where you can get them. Anywhere you can find fans for a team or for a league, you take them.
All right. You know, it's bad when you go to fix your glasses and they're not even on your head. All right. I want to dig into the Raiders. A lot of different things going on. Um, Getsy's not been officially named, so there's nothing to really talk about there. Obviously, I mean, all indicators are that the deal is done, but until it's official by the team, there's nothing really to talk about. But I do want to address with you one issue. Cliff Kingsbury and Luke Getsy are two completely different types of coordinators. And so I don't if the Raiders had come out with Luke Getsy first and nobody had ever thought of Cliff Kingsbury, I don't think the fan base would have been as riled up as it is. But because they go Cliff Kingsbury, which is air raid, to and it doesn't mean he can't do other things. In fact, he talked in his interview about other things, but then they go to Luke Getsy. That's where the disconnect is with the fan base. I don't think anybody hates. Well, I'm sure there are. I've learned that, but I don't. I think it's not a hate thing for Getsy. It just seems to be so diametrically opposed. What do you think of that analysis?
I think that's fair. Fans, they pay attention. They're astute. They look at what coaches are known for, what they
Mhm.
favor schematically, and you see, okay, this guy, yes, he has experience too, and he brings that to the table, but he looks like he wants to do different things um, than Kingsbury did. Luke Getzey does. So, what is Antonio Pierce's vision for the offense? Obviously, he said 24 points to goal, which is great, but how does he anticipate getting there? How does he want to get there? Does he want to be a team that, spreads the field and throws it a lot? Does he want to be a team that is more of a power running game or incorporates, a quarterback running into the system the way that Getzey had to in Chicago with Justin Fields? If that's the case, then they don't really have that type of player with Aiden O'Connell. But what does he see, and how does Getzey want to modify things for the personnel he has? I also
Mhm.
think one of the reasons why fans got riled up, um, and listen, I'm sure there were some fans that were really excited to potentially have Cliff Kingsbury. I'm sure there were some fans that really weren't that jazzed up about having Cliff Kingsbury. That's just the way it goes with any coaching search in any sport. Well, we talked about in the past, just last week, I think even about Raider fans being a little beaten up, a little downtrodden because of what they've gone through all these years. And I think when you have a guy who was the first choice or the offered the job, NFL media, multiple reporters, but not just local guys like you, but national guys are saying he's going to get the job. This is who the
Mhm.
Raiders want, and then it falls through. You're like, oh, here we go again. What, the Raiders screwed it up? What did they do wrong? How come?
Mhm.
I think that's one of the reasons why you might see some fan animosity. Plus the fact that the Bears the last couple of years, haven't been great offensively. Um, but again, you got to take into account personnel. What did he have to work with? What were his limitations at quarterback? What were his limitations along the offensive line and skill positions? What were his assets that he had to work with there? And so things can really look different. To me, I think with coaching in general, uh, and it's true with coordinators, I think it's true with a lot of head coaches, and it doesn't just go with football, isn't just, you know, pertinent with football. There's great coaches who will make it work at least maybe not be have a championship team every year, but we'll have a winning team and make it work almost every single time they're out there. There's bad coaches who just go around getting fired, or they get fired once or twice and they don't get the opportunities. And then there's good coaches who need they can look great with the right mix of personnel if they have things going and things are working. And then if they don't have that, they kind of, you know, they don't, it doesn't look good. And I think that in the case of Luke Getzey, that might be what you had. You might have a guy who is a good coach, good offensive coordinator, but just needs to find the right concoction of ingredients to put together a good offense consistently.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's fascinating, and I don't blame the fans. These guys, these fans have been through so much. I
Mm.
don't I don't blame them. I just find it interesting the way they reacted, and I can see it. You know what? Okay, here we go again, and I agree with you 100%. All right, let's talk about Tom Telesco did an interview recently and talked about I don't know who we're going to pick. Um, he is still going through with the staff that's there, evaluating, trying to learn what he has. Um, I I understand. Again, Raider fan. You go hire a GM that was fired, an offensive coordinator that was fired. I understand their frustration because it has been 2 decades of futility. I get all of that, but man, I don't think Tom Telesco. Now he's going to be judged by Super Bowls. This is the Raiders, so I get that. But as of right now, having done all that he could, I don't think he could have done any better in this short time that he's been the man. I'd like your thoughts on Telesco and just kind of how he's handled this job interim. I mean, here in the beginning.
Sure, I think he seems to have had the right approach just from looking at his introductory presser, where he said, I don't know everything. I'm gonna start to coming in here, and I'm looking forward to working with Antonio Pierce and getting his lay of the land of the organization and what he knows about our roster, what he knows about our personnel. And I think one of the things, and it's funny you said that about not knowing who we're going to pick yet. I think this is one of the things that all NFL fans struggle with around this time of year, especially if your organization has been losing. The NFL is such a year-round product.
Mhm.
When you have been, when your team is basically eliminated from playoff contention or looking like it's going to be eliminated from playoff contention during the season, a lot of fans start to look right at mock drafts. And when they start to do that, they're thinking, who can we get? Who can replace? Who can we get? And then you get into the offseason and there's mock drafts coming out all the time. And I see it every day with Giants and Jets fans in New York getting angry at who someone on ESPN, whether it's Mel Kiper or Matt Miller or someone for another website, mocks to them now almost 3 months before the actual draft, before the combine, before the interview process and all that stuff. Everybody, listen, those guys have their intelligence that they get, their intel they get from around the league, so they do talk to people. But right now, it's all educated guessing. So I think
Mhm.
fans want that immediacy. They want to know Tom Telesco is coming in. This is who we're targeting. We're going to trade up to get our quarterback, Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever it is, or we're going in this direction in the draft. We want to know, boom, 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 like what the future is going to bring, and that's not necessarily the process in the NFL. So I think that might be one of the reasons why you see fans kind of get anxious around this time of the year because you're already ready to move into free agency and the draft, and you still have to wait, bide your time before that stuff comes up.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I will be stunned, and I'll be more than stunned. I don't think the Raiders are going to get Caleb, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. I just don't think that's going to
I
happen.
wasn't, I wasn't reporting they're going to do that. I was just throwing out a
No,
scenario for
no,
fans.
no. I'm going to my next question. Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of those are on the table. So we're going to take those off the table. Um, and so if those three are not on the table, first of all, as you know, I talked to a ton of people around the league trying to garner and get information. In my first mock draft, we had the Raiders taking JJ McCarthy in the second round because that's where his value right now is. And I was talking to an NFL executive that said, right now, if the draft was today, you could get JJ in the second. And this is an executive with a team that does not need a quarterback, a team that drafts quarterbacks very, very well. And he said, we have him and Drake May as our only two first round grades, which I found to be fascinating. And he said to me, um, but by time people get to spend time with JJ McCarthy and watch him at pro days and everything else, watch him at the combine, he said, I think he could move up even before some of those guys that are now top three. Um, what are your thoughts on JJ McCarthy? He made a great point to me. He said, for everyone that talks about his passing numbers are not that good, he completes 73% of his passes, which is unbelievable. In most of the games in the Big Ten, Michigan wanted to run the ball. He goes, but go put the video on of him in the playoff. Against Alabama, he had to compete against two first round corners, one first round safety with another one who's probably going to be a first round safety. He goes, and look at how he passed against that coverage, against that amount of talent. This guy, again, they don't need a quarterback, but very high on JJ McCarthy. I'd like to hear what you think of him.
I think from watching him, I think I would put him below the big three so far, obviously, which is where I think he firmly is. I think QB4
Mhm.
is a fine range for him. at this point. One of the things I think that, like, and you kind of alluded to, it complicates matters with the evaluation of him. And to be fair, I'm going by my eyes, watching him during the season, reading and consuming draft media that I trust and I know put the effort, things like that. I'm not personally breaking down hours of JJ McCarthy films. I just want to give that disclaimer. But from watching him during the season and from you know consuming and reading and looking at different things and watching different breakdowns now, one of the things that makes it tough to evaluate him is that he didn't get the opportunities to throw the ball all around the yard the way that some of these other quarterbacks did or had to for their teams to be competitive. For JJ McCarthy, Michigan dominated or was in control of most of the games on their schedule. Their three non-conference games, they were clearly the better team. They in the Big Ten, they blew out at least in the second half almost everyone they faced, other than Ohio State and Penn State. And in that Penn State game, what did they run the ball? 20 something straight plays, 30 straight plays, something that was just a crazy number. And I don't necessarily think they did it because they had no faith in McCarthy. I think they respected Penn State's ability to defend the pass and said, we have the horses up front and in the backfield to just run the ball down their throats. We don't need to throw. So when you have that, I think all those factors make the evaluation a little tougher. And no, he's not going to have the highlights. Now, I don't think he has the skill set totally of the upside of as Caleb Williams say. But no, he's not going to have all the highlights of a Drake May, because Drake May had to do almost everything for his offense the last couple of years. He had some quality receivers, yes, but Drake May was the fulcrum of the UNC offense. Whereas Michigan had McCarthy, who was a very good college quarterback, who will play in the NFL and has potential to be very good in the NFL, I think. But they had great running backs. They had an awesome offensive line. They had a defense that just dominated opponents. So I think that also makes it very interesting. There's a possibility I could see where he goes to a team either in the second round, or I think he could move up into the first. And the fans aren't that excited about it on draft night, but maybe he develops into something down the road where they're like, wow, we could potentially got a steal.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask you right now, and I understand that we're only in early February, but if you had to predict right now, how many players, I mean, how many quarterbacks go in the first round of the draft? How many would you say?
Well, the top three, I think, will definitely be in there. I know that there are some people saying that Drake May's going to drop, but there's always people talking about dropping quarterbacks every year, and I feel like they never fall as precipitously as some project. So those three guys, your Williams, your May, your Jaden Daniels, I think are definitely going. I think at least four. I do think either a JJ McCarthy or a Bo Nix or a Penix gets into that first round, depending on what a team likes and what they value. I think we see at least four, potentially five. I would set the over under right now at 4.5.
At 4.5?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. It was interesting for me talking to some NFL people recently. Like one guy said they only had two people with first round grades. Another guy told me we only have three with first round grades. It's just interesting to me. And then talking to teams who traditionally aren't great drafters. Oh man, we got six guys here that we think are first round prospects or whatever. It's just interesting to me because there's no continuity. I like to listen to the teams. So for example, when I'm looking at running backs, I like to talk to teams who traditionally draft running backs very well. I listen to them, or I'll listen to when it comes to quarterbacks, teams that draft quarterbacks, teams that constantly fail at it. I like to get them just to know what they're thinking. So when I make my mocks, but it's fascinating to me. The draft is absolutely fascinating, isn't it?
It is. And it's like a puzzle. You're putting together a puzzle when you're making a mock draft. You're taking all the intelligence that you have, um, from around the league, and you're taking, your own evaluations, and you're plugging in what you think teams are going to do, and then, okay, if this happens, this domino falls, where do these other teams go next? There's a science to it, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Okay, Matt, staying on the Raiders beat, the Raiders theme, I want to talk about Antonio Pierce comes out with a big players tribune.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, did you see it?
yeah. I
I'd
did. I
like
was
your
cool.
thoughts on it. I'd like your thoughts on it. I want to know what you thought. He wrote a letter, an open letter to Raider Nation. What'd you think?
Well, I think that, again, we talked, before about kind of Raider Nation, Raider fans being a little bit apprehensive, or being a little bit, beaten down by the last couple of decades of what's gone on there. And I think that Antonio Pierce is doing a nice job of setting the tone, saying, "Hey, we're the Raiders. This is Silver and Black is back. This is, the type of attitude we want, how we want to conduct ourselves, how we want to project ourselves. Again, you do have to deliver wins and losses. That's the bottom line in this business. Ultimate thing he will be judged on. But for
Mhm.
now, going into his first off season, coming off half a season as an interim coach, he has, I think he has that aspect of the job down. He understands what the fan base needs. He understands what his players need. He understands the type of confidence he wants to project and the image he wants to project. And I thought the Players Tribune was pretty a pretty cool way to do that. So I think that it'll be, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how he handles his first full season in that division. I think the AFC West in general next year might be the most interesting, fascinating division in the NFL, because just from the coaches alone and the personalities you have there. But I liked it. I thought it was a good step for Antonio Pierce.
All right. Now I want to stay on this a little bit because I think this is pretty funny. I hate the Pro Bowl, and I hate it. It's a flag football game, and I understand. I get it. A lot of guys didn't want to play in the Pro Bowl because why take a chance of getting injured? I remember a few years ago, Sean Taylor. Many people believe, if not the greatest, one of the greatest safeties to ever play the game. He goes up in a Pro Bowl game and just crushes someone.
Punter,
And
Brian Moorman. Yep.
I'm sorry, what?
Brian Moorman from the Bills,
Yeah,
the punter. Yeah.
yeah. And so a lot of people were like, it's not worth getting injured and I agree with them, by the way. But to me, a flag football game is making a mockery of it. If I'm the NFL, I no longer call it the Pro Bowl. I just call it the All Madden team, first and second, both sides of both AFC and NFC, just AFC first and second team, NFC first and second team, All Madden. Give out an award at honors night or whatever, but don't have the game anymore. To me, it's making a mockery. Now, some people say I'm just an old man telling people to get off my lawn, but I've talked with a couple players about it, who've been Pro Bowlers, or one of them on the cusp of being a Pro Bowler, and they agree with me. What are your thoughts? What do you think of this?
That's funny. We had this conversation in the Spun Slack employee Slack channel the other day. We were talking about the Pro Bowl and different things. Um, and one of my colleagues said it, and I kind of agree. I think that the entire genre of professional all-star games have just completely lost their luster. I think that, when I was younger, um, I think there's still some value to the skills competition, like the home run derby in the NF in the MLB in
Love it.
MLB. The dunk contest isn't what it used to be when Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, and guys ran it when it started, but that can still be fun for the NBA. 3-point contest is still fun. I like the
Mhm.
idea of the skills competitions they had Thursday night for the Pro Bowl. I think that could be kind of fun too. But the All-Star games in general, and I really can't speak to the NHL All-Star game, although one of my colleagues who's a diehard NHL fan, biggest hockey fan I work with, and one of the biggest hockey fans I know, doesn't like the NHL All-Star game. So that's just one man's opinion. But it kind of factors in what I'm saying. I just think the entire professional all-star game thing has lost its luster. When you're younger, I used to love to watch, MLB All-Star game because that was before interleague play got really expanded. So it might be your only chance to see some guys from the NL go up against guys from the AL. NBA All-Star games used to be unbelievable, and you would get. I mean, they were always high scoring, but you would get some type of element of actual gameplay, and in the fourth quarter, teams would really lock down and they would play for real, and it would be great. Now it's a layup line dunk contest almost from jump. It's like just guys going up and down the court getting some cardio in. The Pro Bowl hasn't. I hadn't been interested in the Pro Bowl in 30 years, 25 years. I'm saying I don't know something like that. It just doesn't hold my attention at all, and I don't know. It still means something to make the Pro Bowl. It still means something to be an NBA All Star, to be an MLB All Star, NHL All Star, without a doubt. Um, but the games themselves, at least to me, don't have the appeal, nearly the appeal they used to.
I remember, and now you and I are spoiled. We grew up in the 70s and 80s. And I remember the dunk contest. I mean, I watched everybody with the Jumpman logos
Yeah.
on their clothes. I remember sitting at home watching it. Um, I remember watching all the skills competitions. I remember one time literally rushing home from church because my dad and I had to watch the baseball all-star game. It was two pitchers going against each other. And you knew it was only they were only going to get 3 innings as the starter,
Right.
but and now it's gotten to the place where this is such a business, and I don't blame the players here,
Mm-hmm.
where the players are like, listen, I can't afford to get hurt. Boy, baseball season is so long. I want those 3 days off, those 5 days off, whatever it is, to relax because my body takes a beating. I remember watching the All-Star games. I mean, come on. I remember when Irvin came back after he had left the league. I think it was
Yeah, yeah.
Tom Chambers was a guy. I think he was with Seattle, but he wins the MVP. I think he was the one that won. But some guy at the always expected the home guy
Yeah, yeah.
to really shine. It meant something. And when it doesn't anymore, I'm not blaming anybody. Things evolve, things change. People that can embrace change can embrace growth. So I'm not an old man reflective nostalgically. I'm an old man being honest, saying it. I have the skill competitions. I love that. At least I remember watching Dan Marino trying to hit targets being moved by golf carts. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
again, I love all the skill competitions. Just give the awards, have the skill competition, and move on. I'm glad we agree on that, and I think it's important. Okay, now talking about people embracing what they can't change. There is a huge, monstrous controversy here at the Super Bowl.
Huh.
The Chiefs are practicing and using the Raiders practice facility, which is the best in the NFL. They're also using the Raiders locker room at Allegiant Stadium. And I got to tell you, Matt, I've never seen nothing like it. I tweeted a picture yesterday and just said, man, I had to take a double take to see Chiefs
Players
um,
using, yeah.
names and I mean Chiefs stuff on the Raiders locker room. I mean, I had people threaten to kill me for spreading a lie. They're not using the Raiders. They're using UNLV. It was nuts. And okay, I've been to every game ever played by the Raiders at Allegiant. I walk into the same locker room every time. I know what their locker room is. The Chiefs are in it. But at the end of the day, I was stunned. I understand Raider fan not liking it. I was stunned. The vitriol and the emotion of Raiders. Hey, it goes back to 20 years of futility. I get it. They're angry and they're mad. but it isn't like Mark Davis can stop it. I mean, the NFL, we just learned the other day, is bringing in 1.1 to 1.3 billion into the Vegas economy this week. When they rent the stadium, they rent it. It's like saying, okay, you can rent my house, but you can't sleep in the bedroom. I mean, when you rent the house, you rent the house. I was fascinated by it. Did it shock you the amount of vitriol that came out about that?
Well, yeah, I think that now you would know this better than I would. Does it go off of who's the designated home team for the game gets to use the facilities? Because I saw somebody say that last year in Glendale, um, the Eagles were the home team. NFC was a designated home team. They got to use the Cardinals facilities, while the Chiefs had to use Arizona State. Um, Now this year, the Chiefs are the home team. They get to wear the home jerseys. So they have access to the Raiders facilities while the Niners are at UNLV. Um,
What I was told, and I got this from somebody who works for the NFL, but it wasn't like an official statement,
right.
was that if the stadium is an NFC home stadium,
Hmm.
then the NFC team is home. If it's an AFC stadium, it's an
Right.
AFC stadium. That's what I was told.
So that would work out exactly like last year. Cardinals, Eagles, both NFC. Raiders, Chiefs, obviously both AFC. Um,
Yeah.
I think it goes back to, I think it became a big story because there was, commentary obviously on the difference in quality of the facilities at
We're
UNLV
going to
and
get to that next.
with
Yeah,
the
we're
Raiders. Um, you know, out People are saying, oh, the Chiefs are getting advantages because they're the favored team, and the NFL loves them, they want them to win, and all that conspiracy kind of stuff. And then you get the Raider fans they're sick to see the Chiefs use the locker rooms, and I know that would happen if the Eagles were using the locker rooms and the facilities at Jerry World or if at MetLife Stadium, or the Cowboys were using the Commanders facilities or the Giants facilities, things like that. Those rivalries run deep. I'm sure Al Davis is turning over his grave seeing all that cheap stuff in the locker room and seeing them prepare. Um, but it is funny how seemingly innocuous things turn into such bigger things now in the age of social media and the age of um, immediate information. Because in the past, if they were using that, it would get reported. Might get reported on television news or the radio, but it would get reported in the next day's paper. And maybe there's a photo in the next day's paper, but people have time to kind of see it and digest it. Now, if you tweet out a picture of it or someone else posts a picture of it, it's out there immediately, and fans can react in the moment with all the emotion they have from seeing that. And I think that's where you see that kind of vitriol come into play.
Yeah, all right. So let's talk about the NFL because the UNLV facilities, I mean, the field, again, by all accounts, is very, very soft. It's not a great field. There's nothing really the NFL can do, but in the future, do you think it behooves the NFL? Would you like to see the NFL pick one site and keep it there? I like that it moves around. I like that you're going to see it in Tampa. You're going to see it in Dallas. You're going to see it at SoFi. You're going to see it in Vegas. You're going to see it in Arizona. I like that. I have no issue with that. You're going to see it in Miami.
Mhm.
I like occasionally you're going to see it go to a Northern Dome stadium like Ford Field or where the Vikings play or Indianapolis, whatever.
Yeah.
I like that. I like it moving around, but for the sake of continuity, would you like to see it one place where all the facilities are equally good, or does it not matter to you? I would like to see them continue to stick to keep moving it around the way they do.
No, I think they should keep moving it around. I like it. I think that's part of the allure of the Super Bowl too. That it's in different places, and it's um, for covering the game for fans traveling. You get different experiences in different spots. Um, what I could see happening is, and obviously this type of format, this practice of the home stadium goes to whichever team is from the same league as that host, um, has been going on. It's not something that's new this year. I wonder if the league will do more to ensure or look into the quality of the alternate practice facilities being up to snuff. Because I think one of the things we have seen the complaints about UNLV is the field, the conditions are softer. It's softer than what the Niners would train on at home or you would be
Mhm.
accustomed to. So it does, everything goes into hosting a Super Bowl. It's just an insanely in-depth event. Does the league kind of go to these places and say, hey, you have to make sure that it fits these parameters and you have all these things in place so that we give the teams the best possible experience. Maybe they change some of their best practices for that. I could see, but I'm firmly of the belief that it should be moving around. I listen. You want to rotate the same group of cities, which they do, fine. But I think I love the fact that the Super Bowl moves around. I love the fact the Final Four moves around. Um, I think it's pretty cool too. Even the college football playoff moves around. I think those type of things are when it's a neutral site game. I like that practice of getting it in different parts of the country, and it's such a boon to the local economies of all these
Mhm.
places that I think that it should stay with the way it's been done forever.
All right, Matt, give me your prediction for the Super Bowl. Who wins and why? And score.
Well, I'm not picking against the Chiefs in the playoffs until they lose. So I'm picking the Chiefs. I learned my lesson. I picked against them to lose to Buffalo, and then I picked against them to lose again to Baltimore, thinking that this is the year the Chiefs will finally get beaten in the playoffs. Somebody will get them. Not didn't happen. I'm picking the Chiefs because they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey and Andy Reid. And I'll put it this way: even if the Chiefs do lose, I'm picking them to get to the Super Bowl next year, assuming they're in the playoffs, because I'm not picking them to lose to an AFC team in the playoffs until they do it again. Because this team is just the role they're on is something special.
What's the score?
I have 27-24 Chiefs.
Now, I know I'm here in Vegas, but last time I heard it was what the Chiefs were favored by 1 point. Is that still pretty accurate?
I actually haven't looked at the line. The last line I looked at was an article I wrote about the coin toss. Yeah, but I haven't looked
Okay.
at the actual betting line. But it's pretty close to just a straight up toss up at this point with these two teams. I think both teams are pretty evenly matched.
All right. I predicted Kansas City to make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl at the beginning, as you know. I did it with you. Um, I am going to ride with them because I thought they would lose to Buffalo. I thought they would lose to Baltimore, and I'm going to ride them because I picked them. But I would like to see San Francisco win the game. But to me, this is a 27-28 game, something like that. 28-27, 28-27 ball game for the Chiefs. But let me just tell you, there'll be nobody happier than me if San Francisco comes back and is able to win it. All right. Last question for you. It's a Raider question. Do you think, based on what you know today, and we're going to give you plenty of time before the draft to change your opinion. Two questions. Will Caleb Williams go number one? And number two, will the Raiders stand pat at 13?
For right now, I would say yes and yes. I really do believe he goes number one. Now, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
Bears or not, or a team makes that kind of Godfather offer to get up there, we'll see. But I believe that even after all the scrutiny and all the things that go into the draft process, a team is going to just say that that skill set, that potential is too much to pass up, and he's going to go one. Right now, I'll say the Raiders stand pat, and I'll need to look into it a little bit more as the process plays out because that could obviously change over the next almost 3 months to the draft.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. He is the great Matt Haladik from thespun.com, joining us each and every week. Matt, as always, it is so good to talk with you, to chat with you, to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, recapping the Super Bowl. All right, there you go, everybody. We'll see you soon.